Okay, everyone. So just some conversation about ellipses. I posted that video for you. I think it's really good. I think the only thing about the video is just the idea in my the way that I view teaching ellipses. Um, that yeah, it's easy. It's harder to um, I think learn about ellipses first um, as 2-point perspective. And so I want to start us off with just kind of thinking about drawing first in 1-point perspective. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a demonstration here. So boop, 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 boop. Hmm. Doop, 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 doop. Okay. All right. So what we want to be doing is thinking about our, perspective space and the ways in which these ellipses and cylinders are going to exist in these spaces. And one of the things that we want to think about, which is a really important relationship, is the relationship of the forms we're going to draw um, in conjunction to the space and, for instance, like the horizon line. And so when we are looking at um, the horizon line, just like when we did the cubes, it's going to have an impact on which planes that we see in the space, like the planes of the different forms. Okay, so I am going to use a couple of the tools here on Photoshop that will make things easier for me. I do think when learning digitally like this, it's easier to see it digitally versus like learning it like with videotaping pencil. So I'm actually just going to start off. I'm going to do everything with you to the best of my ability, the way that you will do things. Okay. So I'm going to make a perspective space. To do that, I'm just going to find the center of the space, just like we've been doing with everything else. And just like we've been practicing with our perspective and also with our um, Union Jack. And so I'm just finding the center of the space here and finding my horizon line and how I want to make things um, visible in regards to that horizon line. Okay, so there's our Union Jack. And then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to merge all this so there's not so many layers here. Okay, and then I'm just going to make a new layer. And with that new layer, just going to draw over where I want the horizon line to be. I can turn this off. Thanks for changing my settings there, Photoshop. So there's our horizon line. Now, if I go turn this back on, I can definitely go ahead and just designate the location of the vanishing point. Okay, just keeping things simple here for myself. Merge these together. Okay, so now we have, this setup. Now we know where the horizon line is, and we know where the vanishing point is. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, like I said, we want to try to, with this, we're going to keep everything just as 1 point perspective. So I'm going to start just by putting a line over here. Every time I make it, it changes it. And then we're going to go back to the vanishing point. And then we're going to go back to the vanishing point here. It's being all nice and kind to me and like making verticals and horizontals for my lines. And then we want this to be kind of cubish. So that means that we want, this is the front here. So we want to make sure it goes back less. Okay. And so we can I'm just going to pick a point that feels like it's not back as far as the front is long. And I don't know, you saw on that video that I posted about the ellipses that even that artist is like, kind of use your intuition a little bit. So there is our box. Okay. So now what I'm going to do and is, like I said, I'm going to be try to be using this process the same way that you're getting to see, the same way you're going to make this, I'm going to do it, even though I could just cut and paste that. I'm going to try to do it this way for you. Doobie-doo. Why did that not change colors? Oh, it's in grayscale. So things are gonna get a little bit different because I want to use color for you and it's telling me I have to flatten everything. So try this again. So you've done all this already. So you do have an understanding of how to do this based on our experiences just in the classroom. Okay. And so when we're looking at this, I still don't know why it's not blue. When we're looking at this, we can kind of see this X that we already know how to do. And then I'm going to pull back here and come through here. Same trajectory. Totally baffled y'all why it's not going blue. And then over here, across like that. Trying to get it horizontal there. It's not gonna make this easy for me. It's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. Oh, it is blue. Okay, that's good. It's just not the same blue as I want. That blue. This blue. It's nice and bright. Why won't you use that blue? There, fine. Can we go with that? No, we can't go with that. Oy. Very interesting. These programs are smarter than I am, I have to tell you. Because it's not a CMYK color. Okay. All right. Makes sense. All right. And now we're just going to go ahead and, we're going to do our Union Jack. Yay. Now I understand. I was angry because I wasn't using CMYK after putting it in CMYK, which is interesting. Okay. So now we have this, right? And our next thing will be to find our corner to corner here. And then that can lead us to finding our, if we go over here, then we can put this one in here. And then this goes down here to the vanishing point, basically. Always down to that vanishing point when we're doing the orthogonal. And then now we know where this is going to intersect with that. Right? So just like we've been doing in class, there is our square within our square based off the Union Jack. Okay? Now, if we take all of that and use that as our basis for our ellipse, we can look at getting our ellipse in there based on this. Now I am going to use the ellipse tool just because I am using my mouse pad and I'm not using an Apple Pencil or something. Put this in. And then I'm just going to use this tool to just get it. Oops, wrong tool. Perspective. Whoop. See. No. Yeah, that wasn't the right tool either. Boop. Distort. Okay. Just need to get it flattened down into perspective and then shrink it. And I actually prefer to do this all by hand, y'all. As you can tell, I'm not the world's best digital artist. But like I said, it makes it easier to see sometimes when it's digital. So now we have our ellipse in space. Okay. And that's all just based on the Union Jack beginning that we've been studying all along. So now when we look at this, we want to look at the idea of like, okay, so if I do this now and I if I do this and I keep all this stuff turned on, it's going to be a bit confusing for you to see. But our premise, right, our idea here is to be able to take that ellipse and then, depending on as we move it, oh, blimey, take this ellipse. No. See, back in the day, it didn't used to do this. You could just click on the layer and that's what would move. There we go. Okay. So I just had to get the line to get it to pick up. So now we have this, right? So we can see just based on our understanding of perspective, like it doesn't take long before I start moving this away from that bottom ellipse before it starts to get distorted. Okay. So like if I take that, right, and I place it there, what's happening in terms of its relationship to the horizon line is that it's going higher, right? And so it's changing its relationship to us. And we are technically starting to see, technically we should be seeing the bottom, and instead we're still seeing the top. Okay. So what we need to do is draw our Union Jack and all of that good stuff up in the sky. And when we do that, then if we take it, right, and we're like, okay, so it's right here, and I'm going to take it straight up, and it's going to tell me when it's lined up because it's got that pink line. But then if I take that, that's not going to work. So I'm going to have to take it now, and I'm just going to flip it horizontally. Nope, vertically. Okay. And so now you can see, like if I take this and when I move this, so if I want it to be at that angle like that, it's going to be all the way up there to be the same angle down here. So if we do that, then we're C, like let's lock that in. And of course we'd have the box around here. And so then if we lock that in, whoop, then as we move, hmm, not my favorite thing, this, I don't know where everything just went. Aha, yay, there they are. Okay, so there, we're back here now. Okay, right, so now we got this. Now we want to move that ellipse up there. Anyway, I know you're all thinking I'm insane. Sorry, I can. Oh, I could just do that. Look at that. Okay. Yay, that's easier. So now this, right, like is going to need to be rotated in order to fit our new Union Jack at the top. Now we can take just line tools and drill straight down, do you see? And then we have our cylinder. Okay. Now, this, of course, would be like transparent. We could also take these and pull these down, and those would be the planes. Okay. So I don't know if I mentioned to this class, but there's some weird stuff that happens in perspective when you go beyond sort of like a certain amount of space. And this is kind of like one of them where it's starting to look really skewed. So it's looking really long and it's looking really sort of angular in terms of like the cylinder itself. But in terms of like the principle of the perspective, it is actually correct. So in terms of like figuring out like, like how to um, make that less sort of warped, then we would just sort of be looking at changing the height of this whole setup. And so let's see. See if we change the height of it, we can change how it is like it's going to get more flat. And that makes sense because it's moving towards us. And so then when we look at that now, okay, and then when we pull this down, we're going to have to change the ellipse because of its relationship to the horizon line. And so in order to change its relationship to the horizon line, we now have to fit it back into that spot that we originally drew it in. And then when we draw the planes around it, it seems a lot less dynamic in its angles and more believable. So depending on the location of the bottom ellipse and the top ellipse to the horizon line, then that's going to affect our um, viewing of it in conjunction to our eye level, because if you remember, our horizon line is our eye level. And so then if we go in now and just kind of like, no, I don't want to erase the whole thing. Erase that, for instance. Now we can see still that the ability to recognize it as a cylinder in a certain type of relationship to us um, is functioning well. And so what we're looking at is we're looking at the cylinder and we're saying, okay, so what is its relationship to us in regards to its height, its width, and its location to the horizon line? So we can see pretty quickly how much an image can be distorted based on its relationship to that horizon line. So if we were to draw a cylinder that would be much smaller, then we would draw one that was much less tool. Maybe something like this. Okay, so if we did something like this, then we would be able to have a much less distorted cylinder because of its location to us in the standing point and the horizon line. Because remember, we have the horizon line, we have the vanishing point, and we have the standing point. And all of those things affect the way that we see our forms in space. So if we have a little space like this with a little cube like that, then when we would drop ellipses right on top, then that will allow us to see like more of a not necessarily like normal ellipse, but like something which perhaps is a little more typical in regards to our life experience as people who interact with ellipses in sort of everyday um, worlds. So then you can see like this ellipse now gets kind of distorted, right? As we pull it into the square, it's going to come and it's going to touch over here. And in the other video I posted, he talks about x-axis and y-axis. It's a great video. And then up here, we're going to do the same thing. We have this ellipse, and it's going to be really skewed because of its relationship to the standing point and the horizon line and the vanishing point. And so like those things are going to make it really skewed just because it's sort of like sitting in this specific space. It's almost to the horizon line. So when the circle actually gets to the horizon line, it actually goes completely flat. So then here we would see the top, the bottom of it, and then here we would see the top of it. And then here it would just be flat. And so the closer this ellipse gets to the horizon line, the flatter it goes. Here, the more obtruse it is. Okay, so just a little touch up on or little information about ellipses. So I'm going to show you something else now. Okay, so let's just look at a couple examples here from another class. So this is a really nice example. Okay, now you can see that they've distanced their object pretty far below the horizon line, right? So like, here we have the horizon line, boop, 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 boop. And then the top of the cup is what we're going to see. That's a nice tactic because then we're not going to get too much distortion with the top ovals versus the bottom ovals. So we can see the vanishing point, and then we've got the different orthogonals coming to that front square section, which is exactly what we want. Now there is a handle, and that does, that's kind of like an alarm, like do 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 do, like okay, did they do this right? Because there's a handle. While the handle really is showing us a horizontal plane, and remember, as long as there's a horizontal plane, it's going to be you're going to pretty much be able to tell, most likely it's a 1-point perspective. Why I say that is because sometimes in a 2-point perspective, you will still get horizontals. But in this case, I think based on the other orthogonals and the location, we can just all presume just by seeing that horizontal handle, that it's a 1 point perspective. Now, we can see all the nice work they've done in terms of dividing up the space, and they've also done that on the top to give us the right ellipses. Okay. You can, of course, see that this one is less wide than this one, and that is because of its distance from the horizon line. So the distance from the horizon line is going to make that, elongate the width of the ellipse or shrink it down. Couple things that I would add to this drawing because overall it's really good. Maybe a thickness to the lip of the cup. Okay, to do that with the perspective, you would actually go through the whole process of drawing the square and the Union Jack all over again, a little bit lower inside here, and then finding the ellipse and then cutting it off when it interacts with this lip. And then also we might benefit a little bit from seeing that shift in there from the top plane to the bottom plane. However, am I seriously worried about that? No, we haven't quite gotten that far yet. And what they've done shows an understanding of the process and the practice that I'm seeking. Here's another one. This one's really successful as well. It is mostly on point in terms of its symmetry. There is some problems with its symmetry, just in terms of like the location of the top. And then where it kind of falls apart actually is right here, where this line here is going at an angle rather than being vertical, because then it's changing up the perspective. To try to keep those vertical lines vertical, in that 1 point perspective, and try to keep those horizontal lines horizontal. This is a really nice little example. I think it's working really well. The top is in the center of the space. You can see that they actually drew a square inside of that space to find the location of those ovals. It's a great tactic and a good result. This one, if we look at it, it's like things are going really well, but look how tall it is from the horizon line. So the horizon line, if this is going to be our eye level, it's my little eye, like a little crocodile eye. If this is going to be our eye level, then this cylinder is going to be really, really close to us. Like we would be like we're going to be like right here. Okay. And then the center of our head is going to be like right here. And so then because it's so close to us and because of the location of us to it, we're going to get distortion. So that's why they're getting these kind of like extreme curves. Sorry, I'm just using my trackpad, so I'm not super good at drawing with that. But those would be the curves on the top. These would be the curves on the bottom. And quite frankly, that's not wrong. It just looks a bit strange because of its proximity to us in terms of the closeness to our standing point, and B, it's the horizon line is right in the center and our eye level is right in the center. So we're simultaneously looking up and simultaneously looking down. This one looks really nice as well overall until we get to here. And in here, they kind of struggled a little bit with kind of the similar issue. And also, I think they're not following through with all of the process required to find that center. And so they're ending up with this sort of strange top, whereas the top would really kind of go here, more like that. And then just in terms of the height of this bottle, it's pretty tall. So in here, we would get these ovals that would be kind of like this. And then here, as they get closer, they would be much more straight, more horizontal, straight, horizontal-ish. Sorry, I know I'm not doing a great job there. And then here they would start to curve, and then they would curve again. You see, so the one in the center would be just a horizontal line. So try to avoid just putting everything right in the center of the horizon line because you're going to end up then with this like looking up and looking down simultaneously sort of situation. Okay. So hopefully that helps. I do think that the YouTube video posted is good. Again, it's going to be a 2-point perspective, so don't follow that exactly, but it does do a really great job of breaking everything down. And then look at my videos for the 1-point perspective approach. Okay. Sorry to have missed class. It unfortunately was really necessary, and I don't like missing class, but um, the situation was warranted. Okay. Um, Thanks so much.